What you got, Brooke?
Dumb idiots of this world. This is about the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Y'all are embarrassing.
Troup, Smooch, and the Dawgs Show. Another new episode is coming up tonight.
Playtime is over. The Dawgs Show is back.
You're listening to the one and only Dawgs Show. Your hosts, Troup, Brenson, and Smooch Moncrief.
Tell them.
Just two dudes talking Georgia football.
That's right.
Yes. Welcome, dog fans, to the one and only Dawgs Show with Troup and Smooch. And we are so happy to be back and be with you folks as we are. Man, spring is here. The temperature, Smooch, it's in the mid 80s this week in middle Georgia.
Yeah.
And we have a football game. A football game is rapidly approaching in a week and a half.
Yeah, it's baby making weather out there right now, Troup. I'm going to tell you.
Whoa!
But I think those days are behind you and me. But that don't mean we can't still try, though, right? But no,
trust the process.
Trust the process, guys. Amen. No, it's you can just that tinge of football. It's just in the air. I drove by a squad the other day doing some cardio stuff the other day. It was the team, and at my gym, some of the players from one of the high schools are in there killing it in the gym right now. They're getting ready, and it just gets you all juiced up. And Dawgs Show fans, we're back. We are locked and loaded, ready to take you through this 2025 season, and we're going to just begin flooding you with content. The Dawgs Show will be at the spring game, which will not be televised, Troup Brenson.
Yes, we did get our tickets this week as they went on sale. And we're going to be sitting up, I think, section 107 midway up. You folks know, the visitor side, 107, 108, right there in the middle of the field. And you should be able to find us. We're pretty easy to spot. The Dawgs Show. But yeah, we're ready. We've locked and loaded to carry you guys all the way through the season. We've taken a few breaks. Last week it was my anniversary. And me and the missus went to Las Vegas. And
nice.
That's where we got married a few years ago. And so I have to get her out of the house and take her. We like to travel, of course. And so we went back to Vegas. We stayed at Harrah's, but I found a new hotel that I really enjoyed. Casino. I didn't stay at the hotel, just walked through the casino. And my wife loves to play the slots. And so, yeah, the Paris hotel.
It's beautiful from the outside. I've never been in.
And you can pop that pickup that I sent you of me and her standing out in front of it, but just a beautiful inside. And the gaming's great, and the atmosphere is wonderful. We had a good time. We stayed a couple days, got on back here, and started prepping for this show, actually, as soon as we got back.
Sounds like a Dawgs Show retreat coming up to me, the Paris hotel.
Yeah, man. And the funny thing is that because I had my mind set on, I love to go to the Venetian. That's my favorite casino to get.
I played in a Hold'em tournament at the Venetian.
Yeah, they got everything there. It's beautiful. And they got great restaurants, great food, great bars. And that's what I kind of do. I kind of hop around and go walk and do all this stuff. My wife's sitting at a machine, right? And but we got there at Tuesday evening, and there was a conference there somewhere in the bowels of that hotel. And they let out about the time we got in. They were like, I swear to you, there were 5,000 people walking around with lanyards on, name tags on. And you couldn't get into a bar. You couldn't get into a restaurant. It was swamp. And it just dampened my spirits so bad that I had to walk across the street to the Caesars. And I played there.
Poor guy.
Yep. But,
I was going to say, we've been, I think, twice now in the last couple. We took my son there for his 21st birthday. I asked him what he wanted to do or what he had planned. He said, I want to do something with the family. So for 21st birthday, we took my son to, I'm trying to remember where we stayed. We stayed at the one with the volcano, the Mirage. We stayed at the Mirage that time, and we had a blast. That's when I ended up over at the Venetian doing Venetian stuff.
But you also went down to Fremont Street to see that. Kind of cool scenes there. It's an older area, but it's beautiful. It's so interesting the way all the live bands are playing. And you got
that's the mafia. That's the mafia side right there.
And
right?
the video going over through the tunnel like.
Fremont's worth it. I mean, it's like a different town right there in the middle of all that. It's a whole different community, a whole different. I love street performers. I love any artist or musician that puts it out there, and they're everywhere. So it was great.
Well, we're looking to take Vegas, or do Athens Vegas style in just a couple weeks.
Come on,
you can just, if you hear Kirby Smart, you hear some of these athletes, they're giving on a microphone, and some of these interviews in the past week or so. It's so interesting to hear those guys' takes, and there's been some very candid takes from some of the players that I've been interested to hear. But Coach Smart, you can tell that last season is still bugging him. He did not enjoy the way things transpired, the way the season ended last year, and he's the Kirby Smart that's got the bug. It's like something that's just under his fingernail that's driving him crazy right now. Every time he speaks, you can hear it in his voice, and his standard is his standard, but the expectations right now, he is pushing and pushing and pushing. He's not heaping a whole lot of praise on much that's going on, and that's what we're used to hearing. Last year, Kirby Smart was a little different. It felt like I think he felt like he had to coddle some players last season. I really do. One being Carson Beck. I know that for sure, and some of these other players that he thought he had them. They were mature enough, but maybe that was not the direction that he needed to go, and he has reversed course a little bit. He's the same tough-nosed Kirby Smart, and we're hearing it through the media.
Yeah. We walked in, Kirby and his team walked into last season with a lot of press. What Saban used to call rat poison, right? A lot of press. You got the number one returning quarterback, Heisman Trophy favorite, Carson Beck coming in, and there appeared to be a lot of eggs in the basket of those leaders last year. And I think we said on the show, the last show that we did, we might not have. I can't remember. I may have said this on our thread. But this group of leaders that just left would probably be the first group that did not leave the culture of UGA better than they found it. And that's not to impugn Tate or any of those guys who are DGDs for life. But at the very top, when it came down to leadership and maturity, especially at the QB position, it just, looking back on it from now, it's very obvious that was not there. Kirby probably knew it at this time last year. He knows stuff a long time before we do. And he tried to motivate and propel that team as best he could. But you can tell this year it is, for lack of a better word, it is vintage Kirby this year. And 5 stars are going to have to claw and fight to beat out 2 stars. The best player is going to be on the field. And no one has a position penciled in right now as far as I can see.
Yeah, they're going to have to earn it. And we like that part of personnel and a roster that Georgia typically has, is you have to earn it. Mm-hmm. And these players, if you get the right players in there, they're okay with that. And you see that. But Kirby Smart's not happy about any practice right now. Everything he puts out there, we got a long way to go. A long way to go. This is not, these guys aren't in shape. It's constantly pushing. Like I said, last year it felt like it might have been that personality. He made a judgment that's what would get them to where they needed to go the best right. way, most efficient way, most effective way. Didn't play out that way. We got a couple of clips here. We can. Yeah. One of our offensive linemen that played a lot last year, Monroe Freeling, had some thoughts about where they thought they were last year, and maybe how that maybe wasn't true.
Yeah, and you'll hear I couldn't separate them because they're right on top of each other. But you'll also hear Oscar Delp talk about the same thing. Here they are.
We were more just senior heavy, so I think we thought we were there. But I really think that we should have focused more on our fundamentals.
Listen to the outside noise. I kind of struggled with, looking at my phone too much when I should have been looking at it and looking at things that people are saying about me.
So, yeah, I love that. And that's some self-awareness. There should always be a self-assessment too. And I like players who can do that. And we got some guys who they put in front of the microphone who see things that way. And last year was not acceptable. And there's only one way to change that. Nobody's going to change it for you. Each player has to do a little bit better, a lot better.
That's good.
And we got to get the right players in there. I also love to hear, we can put this in there too, with Zachariah Branch, the wide receiver, Georgia, and kick returner. They brought in from USC.
There are a lot of things that impacted me to come to the University of Georgia. First and foremost, I would say the culture that Coach Kirby Smart and, the coaching staff has established. I feel like it's a real brotherhood, and, it's not just words. Some people just say, okay, we have to have the bond and the things like that to be a great team. But I really do truly believe that, they built that into this program, and they consistently done it year after year. And, just to be surrounded by a lot of like-minded players as well, all trying to get toward the same goal is something that, is really important to me as well. And, once I got into that portal, it was pretty easy to make my decision from there.
He, by all accounts in practice, looks really good.
He's the real deal, fans. He's the real deal.
Yeah, and he's got the right mindset. Him and his brother both come over. The brother's defensive back, and they had the right mindset. They're not looking to be given anything, and the expectation is, he said, is to be the best version of himself, and that's amazing stuff to hear. That's the right mindset, and Georgia's standard is what he's seeking.
I love that. So the number one thing I've noticed about these clips is accountability, right? It'd be very easy for players to point to players that didn't get it done last year. They're not. They're pointing the finger back at themselves. We didn't get it done. That's huge. That's a step of maturity. Love the accountability. With Branch, think about this, Troup Brinson. He had a cushy job up there over in USC where he was, right? The coach over there is not really demanding anything from his players. It's kind of a circus, and that's the reason they keep underachieving. He chose to leave one of the most beautiful cities in the country to come to Athens to get the dog beaten out of him, or beat into him, however you want to say it, every day, because he wants. That's the thing about alphas. A true alpha, a real leader, and a real gem, a real 5-star, they crave to be the best version of themselves they can be, even above being treated like a superstar. And he gave up the superstar treatment to come to UGA to see how good he can be, and Kirby will find it.
Yeah, I love hearing that. This maturity there, it is just awesome, and is also the right kind of person. And he mentioned that. They mentioned it in the interview that it wasn't just that kind of player, but Georgia wanted that right kind of person to come in there. Man, they had identified that really well with the Branch brothers. I'm also encouraged, and I've spoken on this in the offseason about the offensive line. They really underperformed last year with all the talent they had. That's why we had such high expectations. Because we've seen it. There's been evidence with these offensive lines at Georgia in the last few years. They perform. They get it done.
Yeah.
They did not last year, and they maybe read their press clippings, the rat poison you say, and they just didn't perform. There was always somebody messing up. But clear this up for me. Me and my wife had this discussion. I said it in the last podcast. The squeaky wheel gets the
grease.
Okay. I've heard it. So for some reason, I say oil. But I've heard people say grease, but you put grease on things that need lubrication. You don't put, it's not oil. Anyway, she says grease and I said oil. We argued about it. So Coach Hayes, last time we asked him, he said oil. And I was like, maybe it is. Is it oil or grease? Or anyway,
that's a good question, True.
Anyway, before I say it, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and the offensive line, there's nothing going to be taken for granted. Or there's no entitlements this season. Those guys are coming with a chip on their shoulder. And not like Monroe Freeling says that we thought we had already arrived. We had a lot of upperclassmen there, and we thought we were there. And we didn't, on paper, we were. But when it came to execution on the field, that was one of the biggest problems with Georgia's season with their offense. They couldn't, the defense wasn't iconic defense, but the offense really struggled at times, and we predicted the opposite. I predicted that this would be the high-scoring Georgia offense in their history.
Yes.
Averaging over 40 points a game, 42, 43, something in there. 45, maybe.
Yeah.
They averaged like 32.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was a really substandard performance based on the athletes who were there and their resumes. And I don't feel like that's going to happen 2 years in a row. If the talent wasn't there and you're just trying to play above your ability, questions. This talent's not a problem.
That's right.
And they should have two deep, like every year, who can compete. but it doesn't work just on paper. You got to do it. And so I think those guys are going to get after it, and I'm expecting it.
Yeah, I think it really goes to show you there is this view, and even Georgia fans have it from time to time, that you can just roll this talent out there and it'll get the job done. Now, if you look at the results of the NFL Combine and the draft that's coming up, the talent was on that line. There's talent on that line. You're going to see some players highly drafted off of that line. But for a unit to work on the O-line, that means 5 people have to do their job. If one person doesn't, the entire line fails. As far as the final result, we saw that in the Notre Dame game, right? We get momentum. Oh, finally, we're going to make this a game. There's a breakdown at one place on the line and disaster. It is not just rolling out the talent, and I think that that's exactly what Monroe was speaking on, that you have to have the hunger of a guy playing for his life, executing on every play, because let's also say the SEC is getting more and more. Every team's a good team. And Notre Dame was a really good team. Every team now has pass rushers. You don't get to take weeks off, and you don't get to just roll out your 5 stars and intimidate the other team into just rolling over for you. And I think that's kind of what was expected last year.
That's no doubt. There have been some positive news coming out, though, as we listen to some of these players talk. And here's some tidbits from the spring practices. One of the players that the incoming freshman we hear so much about that I didn't anticipate it being that way. I thought he was a depth piece. That's running back Bo Walker.
Yes.
And Kirby Smart loves him. He keeps talking about him. And you can hear one of the pundits was walking by practice and heard just this week him getting praise from Kirby Smart through the megaphone, which is very rare. It's the effort that he's given. And he's a much better he has much better opportunity to play than we would anticipated because Georgia's got some depth issues at running back. You think about Nate Frazier and then Chauncey Bowens. We don't know how the Robinson kids are how they're going to come along. We expect them to, but we don't know. And they've had
knees are tricky. History. Yeah, knees are tricky.
And so Bo Walker may get that chance.
I had a couple of guys that we listened to on the inside that were kind of telling us I'm not comparing the two. I'm just saying coming in, the vibe was similar. When Ladd McConkey was coming into Georgia, we had 1 or 2 people telling us, hey, there's a kid coming in that can absolutely fly and cut on a dime. Coming in, this wide receiver 3-star. Bo Walker, we kind of heard the same buzz. This kid, he just got his schooling, his high schooling. There was a kind of a technicality here, and he wasn't able to jump through the hoops that players jump through to go up to a 4-star and then a 5-star, but he has every bit of the talent. He looks like it. His film's ridiculous, but
the biggest difference between him and McConkey is that the names. I mean, Ladd McConkey, that guy's not playing. He's not playing. Now, Bo Walker at running back, I'm going to take Bo Walker at running back.
I think any Walker at running back at UGA is probably a good thing. We'll just go with
first
it.
Name Bo. Come on.
First name Bo. Come on. That is a DGD before he takes the field. Yeah.
Yeah, he was he kind of got lost, I think, in the senior season at Rabun County.
Yeah, he was at Rabun Gap.
And the reason why is he was at Cedar Grove, much bigger school, and was trying to transfer to Stockbridge, and there was some issues with him transferring with one of his coaches moving over there too. The GHSA denied him, and he had to find a place to play his senior season.
He was going to sit out an entire season, right?
Yeah, and so then that's where he ended up at a single A school where they play good football there, but the spotlight's not quite as big, and so he kind of he was hidden just a bit. So that's good news to hear on him. Georgia needs some of that, right. And we may get to see him play. Hopefully next Saturday at a G-Day game.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. He looks the part. Everything we're hearing from guys that we know that have been at practice is ridiculous on him. But, he's 5'9". I believe he's already up to 215 just since he's been on campus. So that squat, solid build. And it's hard to tell running away from 1A kids in his tape, but you can go back and watch his junior tape back when he was at Cedar Grove. He's the real deal, guys. And Kirby to be praising a freshman is a rare thing, and it's even being heard from people walking down the street hearing Kirby on his tower with his megaphone.
So on the defensive side, Smooch, we've been able to hear some Chris Cole and Justin Williams. I just don't know how these guys are all going to be on the field at the same time. You got Raylan Wilson, you got CJ Allen. Those guys are players, and they came in highly touted. Chris Cole was going to be a guy who does everything on the field, very much like Jalen Walker ended up being.
Yeah.
He can just do it all. And
Chris Cole may have been our best coverage linebacker last year.
I had him in there on a lot of third downs just for that reason. And so, because he could do both of those things. The skill set was gave him opportunities to be on the field, and those are highly touted, highly
all of them
desired traits to have as a linebacker, and to be able to do that. And also with Justin Williams, we didn't get to see him any last year, but he came in as like the number one linebacker in his class.
Yes.
And he's coming in behind some of the, like I said, Raylan Wilson and CJ Allen, who is the undisputed, looks like a leader there on the defense this year. And we knew that coming into the high school, we had those traits too. But they're going to have to find a way to get these guys on the field, because that's Georgia's deepest position and the most talent position of the whole team. That linebacker group, that linebacker room is just spectacular.
When you talk about Chris Cole and Justin Williams, the thing there, we knew coming in they were freak athletes. They could have played a number of offensive positions as well, and did in high school. But we knew they were freak athletes, but you never know till you get them on campus and you put them in that environment if they have that dog in them. The work ethic to stand up and be a leader by example, not just the amount of talent they have, and everything that we're hearing from Kirby backs up that Cole and Williams are the real deal.
I've started a new ritual of like asking a guy at the end of practice who he thinks the hardest worker is, like who works the hardest, who practices the hardest. When you watch the tape, who do you say has that passion and fire that's sometimes lacking all over college football now? It's a different climate in college football. So it's funny because Chris Cole and Justin Williams have both been mentioned multiple times by people as extremely hard work guys. Like, they work hard, and I appreciate that about them.
I can't wait to see them in a more expanded role, but they got to find a way, because CJ Allen and Raylan Wilson are going to play a good bit too, so they'll find some ways to get those guys in. Or you may have, it's just the best man wins. You may have some guys who you expect to have 40 snaps a game, and they might not get but 20.
Yeah.
So, because you're all about winning ball games, you got to put the best guy out there.
And then it's at some point somebody's going down with an injury, and it won't seem quite so crowded as soon as the unfortunate part happens. All of a sudden it won't seem crowded anymore.
It's easier to sit somebody if they're not 100% when you have that kind of depth. They might could play, but you don't have to push some of these issues when you have that.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
But yeah, those are the names I'm hearing. I don't know if you're hearing. I am excited for Kristen Miller back and Jordan Hall. Those guys should give with another guy who came in, McLeod, last year, who really came on to the end of the season, Xavier McLeod. Those guys, or that defensive line has an opportunity to be very good. Then you got Jonah-Ajonye. I saw a picture of him this past week on the stadium steps, and I was, oh my goodness, if he comes on the way we expect him to take the next step in his sophomore year with that kind of talent. He's telling people in the locker room, have you heard him? He's telling people, I'm superior. I have superior genetics than you do. You don't. So it's kind of that camaraderie stuff.
He's right. Yeah. He's also correct. Yeah. Whoever said all men are created equal hasn't seen Ajonye in the locker room, because they're not. No, I think so. I think McLeod and Ajonye are probably the two where I really am intrigued. I think that McLeod was so touted out of high school, and had a couple of bad breaks, and now seems to be putting it all together mentally and physically. Cannot wait. And Ajonye, like I said, this is that year, right? That sophomore year. It's when we knew that Jalen Carter, oh my gosh, he's the best player on the team. It's his sophomore year. We still have him another year, but you see it right then. And who's to say one of these other kids isn't going to step up like an Ajonye and just make this massive impact, not just a contributor, but an impact player.
And that depth we were talking about at linebacker, we don't even mention. We say all those names and don't even mention the number one linebacker from this recent class, Zayden Walker. Is it Zayden or Jaden?
Zayden.
Zayden Walker, number one linebacker in that class, and we don't even talk about him because he's got to wait. He's got to wait in line to be able to get on the field. And typically that sophomore season, you're right, should be when things start to come together. The game slows down. You know what you're doing. Physically, you are prepared to play against what Georgia will play against in the SEC.
Yeah, you don't always see it at the way you want, but sometimes you do. Like I said, for every Jalen Carter, there's a Jalen Walker, right? Who he wasn't a flop his sophomore year or anything like that, but the junior season he set himself apart. But you just want to see the next step. You want to see a player not disappear after year one. You want to see them take that next step where you cannot keep them off the field.
Yeah, it's too bad. Too bad you can't just move those. Those guys could play some offense too.
Oh my gosh.
You're right. Yeah. I did hear a little something about on offense before we talk about the quarterbacks. Dwight Phillips. We mentioned him last episode, and I was like, he's probably a gadget player. I heard they would really like to use him as similar to James Cook. Maybe not as much. They just want to be able to split him out and get him on a linebacker and let him catch the ball out of the backfield.
Good luck with that.
Or safety or whoever, it's not. I wouldn't be a good position to be in for the defense.
Yeah.
But he's just one of those guys. It's tough when you have, and I don't envy them in a way I do. You want to have all these Jimmys and Joes who you don't know, you got a little bit too much sometimes to figure out where you're going to plug them in at. But that talent eventually surfaces to the point where you can't keep them off the field.
I think a 2 running back package where you've got Phillips in the game and he goes into motion and is in motion at the snap, and you get the ball to him. I mean, his father was an Olympic sprinter. I mean, we're talking real speed here. And that type of thing, just to give, can you imagine what the running lanes that opens? If you're a linebacker or a safety that thinks you have to cover that kid, you're not crowding the line of scrimmage anymore. So go right by you. So you're backing off. You're opening up the defense just by his presence. So you're right. He doesn't have to make the impact that James Cook made, but a similar impact would open things up considerably.
But one of the players that I think, from what I've seen, and I saw him in high school, and then I've seen him in the camp, and then leading up to during practice, that I think is going to eclipse what we initially thought offensively, where they're going to use him, how much he's going to be integral going forward, is Ethan Barbour. Because we heard his name, he was highly rated, but it was Elias Williams that everybody wanted. Because he's that freak, 6'7", 6'8", uncoverable, and he doesn't quite have the ball skills. So is what I'm hearing. Not yet. He'll drop the easy ones and then go up and make a contested catch. And you're like, wow. So he's got a ways to go. But that Barbour, who looks almost like he's such a hybrid. Yeah, you could put him in the backfield. He could be very similar used the way sometimes that Brock Bowers was used, moving him around the field, because running routes in his hands. If you folks have not, you need to Google it. Maybe we'll find something and send it to you.
I'll try and find something. Yeah.
But him running routes and his hands is freaky, and he's got good size. Of course, plays a lot of tight end. Will play probably mostly tight end, but he can play wide receiver, tight end, fullback. He is one of the playmakers that if you didn't really, if that didn't ring many bells when he signed, and you didn't, you're more looking at the other guys coming in. He's going to be one of the focal points. Going down, I guess, in the next couple of years, maybe even this year. He might be too good to keep off the field.
I 100% agree. Someone was asking me, one of the comments we got on one of our videos, when we say someone's a natural catcher of the football, how do you look at game film and know that? Because no one puts their drops on their game film, right? So they got their game film, they catch everything. How do you know if someone's natural? Here's how you tell. This is how I look when I say that McConkey's a natural catcher of the football, or Brock Bowers. If the catch itself looks like part of the running motion, they're running their route, they come out of their route, they get their hands on the ball is tucked, and they're gone. But it all looks like one motion. If you watch someone that doesn't have elite ball skills, the catch looks like a separate operation that they're doing as opposed to running a route, or it's easier to see on defensive back. Keely Ringo is a great example, right? Freak athlete, not great ball skills, and playing the ball looked completely different than he did chasing the receiver or making a tackle. Those all looked natural. When he played the ball, it looked different. That's how you tell. Ethan Barbour, the catch for him is just a fluid. He's so fluid. A fluid part of the motion he makes. And that's what we mean when we say he's a natural catcher of the football. It's not a separate task. It's part of running the route and making the reception and gaining yards.
And a part of that package is the physicality he plays with too. So he's not worried about contact. This is a guy who's very aggressive and has that dog. You saw, if you watch, like I said, high school playoffs, that's what really jumped out. The aggression he played with, the physicality, and then having those kind of skill player traits, man, it was that really leaked out. And then to see it carry over,
right,
and translate into we playing against better players and in practice. And I'm sure there's some clips we'll pull up I saw on Twitter, and I was just like, okay, don't sleep on this guy. And, even though Georgia's got so much, I've heard Jason Riddell is you're going to see him a lot this year.
He's taken a couple of steps this year. Yeah.
And so they may be able to use that 3, just the initial with guys who have experience, that 3 tight end set. If everybody stays healthy with Delp and Lawson Lucky and Riddell. Yeah. And you may be, there's some skill players there. So like I said, I don't envy the decisions, but I do envy the coaches having those cards in their deck that they can pull out and use, because you never know what's going to happen injury wise.
But Troup, who's going to throw on the football?
Segue. It looks like
we're the best in the business for a reason, people.
Yeah. And it's still good conversation, and I like a battle, a competition between Puglisi and Gunnar Stockton. But all reports are that this is Gunnar Stockton's team right now, and Pugs, although very, very talented, and looks the part.
Yeah,
he just looks like a super athlete. He looks like a quarterback, and the ball comes out of his hand. Special. He's behind in a lot of those things. But, like I said, even if Gunnar Stockton does win this battle and takes it into the fall, there's room for 2 quarterbacks a lot of times, and who knows what's going to happen. We're going to need a couple of quarterbacks. And beyond that, there's that Coulter-Jen, is that his name? He's the walk-on that everybody said he was terrific in high school. He just got under the radar. He's a guy who can play too. So those are really 3 quarterbacks, aren't they?
Yeah, I think that's what you're looking at. I think that with Gunnar, so Gunnar is I would call Gunnar the unquestioned leader of the team, which means he'll probably be the starting quarterback because he's just a natural leader. But you have to still make the throws. Also, when you've got a quarterback like Gunnar that's going to not shy away from contact, that's going to take on linebackers when he does run, which he may be more comfortable doing at first. That's going to be interesting. But you're only 1 play away if you're Ryan Puglisi at that point, because Gunnar is going to play with a style we haven't seen in a few years at Georgia. He's just a different style of player. But as far as where the quarterback competition is, the players adore Gunnar Stockton, and that's something that's been missing for a little while at Georgia.
That's a great point about his size. He's not small, but I heard this question asked this week on one of the forums, is that the national championship quarterback this year was Will Howard, which I didn't think he was anything special coming into this year. He got hot at the right time. But he was also a guy who was not afraid to stick his head and run the ball and take some punishment. And somebody said, well, can you compare him to Gunnar Stockton? And the point that was made, well, yeah, but Will Howard is 236 pounds. Gunnar Stockton is 216.
Right.
There's a couple inches difference and 20 pounds.
Yeah.
So, you don't really want Gunnar Stockton. You want him to be able to get tough yards, but you don't want to have to count on that to lead your offense. I did say this, I think either last year at some point. I could be proven wrong on this. I thought that if Gunnar Stockton was ever the starting quarterback for Georgia, they'd have to totally change their offense. It would have to be a offense that was predicated maybe 65, 70% run.
Yeah.
It would have to be a more physical team. And I don't know if I believe that, so to speak. Now, I think they'll be more balanced, and he may be much better passer. They have more trust in that part of his game than I anticipated before.
Yeah, I think so. He has a wind-up delivery that he doesn't look like an effortless thrower of the football, but he makes good throws. So it's just going to be. And I remember this time last year, Kirby Smart was complimenting Gunner's accuracy, which I didn't know that was part of the package for Gunner. I kind of saw him as a run first type of guy, just like you said. So it appears that they may just be, the Georgia offense with a little Stetson Bennett flavor in it, and away we go. We'll find out.
Yeah, and again, a performing offensive line will make everything so much easier to run the ball when you want to, and for him to have time to find his receivers. He does need to learn a little better touches. It seems like a lot of his passes, at least in the last game of the season. I don't know how much you can read into that.
He was some missiles.
Everything, yes, was a missile. Everything had a lot of heat on it, and you have to learn to layer some of those throws. I mean, maybe he can do it. Maybe it was just amped up. We're going to find out. I just hope the offensive line meets the standards that Georgia needs them to. With that talent, you feel like they should. But when we watched Gunner in spring games past, he had a very limited offense. It felt like he threw a lot of outs. He threw a lot of plays where he rolled towards the receiver he was going to pass to, and so that kind of limited where he could throw to. And I was like, they don't trust this guy, because this is, even if he was a number 2 quarterback or right in there, I just felt like they didn't trust him if they were going to run primarily those type plays.
They were kind of coddling plays,
run pass option type things, and so I think that he'll take a big step getting all the snaps, and you'll be able to have much more control of the complete offense. And you'll see a team, an offense who will come out and throw the ball if they want to. So that's what I expect. I hope to see that.
I'm excited, Troup, about seeing a quarterback I know the team is behind, that I know they'll go to war for. The talent and the measurables are almost immaterial for me, because we had the talent and the measurables last year. But we did not have a player that every player on that team would go to war for. And, that was evident at the end of the season, and especially the reception that Gunner got when he came in. So is Gunner beloved by his teams because who he is, or because who he is not? He's not Carson. Is that why they love him? Or is he loved because he's Gunner? That's kind of what I'm interested in seeing this year.
He's a football player, and guys like that. Mm-hmm. And just like if you got a kicker who will run up and tackle somebody and decleat somebody, players gravitate towards that. He's not just not some guy we just take care of and put a special jersey on so you can't hit him. Yeah, he's a football player.
Yeah, we got a punter that blew his ACL making a tackle. People, that's a Georgia Bulldog.
Right. And we did get some news, and this is the next in the quarterback lineage. We hope to. It looked like when Jared Curtis decommitted to Georgia that bridge was burned, or he had moved on. That's what you think about. But somebody's going to come out and say, well, I'm going to back off of this commitment. Mm-hmm. You figured that they have chosen against you already. And that doesn't look to be the case. People right now, the say is, as he's going to announce May the 5th, so Cinco de Mayo, Curtis is going to make his decision, and he's the number 1 quarterback in this group this year. But it's between Georgia and Oregon, looks like. And Oregon,
I've heard. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say Oregon. Everybody was the trendy pick for a while, but now it looks like that the ties with Georgia are a little bit stronger.
I would think so, and especially he lives right up. Doesn't live far from where I do here. They have a very tight family. His family's very close, and his family, they are all Georgia people. I mean, they are all on the Georgia train.
I feel really good about Curtis committing to Georgia. And Georgia's got some other quarterbs they're looking at.
Bo Bentley, that's who you're trying to think of.
Bo Bentley, there you go. He's the guy that I don't know much about him other than people are just salivating over him as well.
He's got some crazy athleticism. I watched his game film yesterday.
I even heard one guy I think it was just a day or yesterday I was reading, and he says, I kind of hope Curtis goes to Oregon because I want Bo Bentley that bad. And I feel like they would have to put all their eggs in that basket, and he would be interested. I was like, well, maybe. I don't know. I just don't know enough about the situation right now with Bentley.
Well, if we had the Bows in the backfield, think about that. We got Bo Walker and Bo Bentley. We got a team Bobo.
I can't remember.
Calling plays for Bo and Bo.
There were 3 teams he had mentioned. One of them was Oklahoma. One of them was Georgia. And I just don't remember the third team that he had that was his top 3.
Oh, I don't know.
It was another top.
Yeah, he's got a top 3. Yeah.
I don't know if it was I just don't know. I don't want to say it was Miami or something, but It was one of those. It was, or might have been LSU. I don't know. Anyway, might have been LSU. I don't know. Those three teams, I think, was what I was looking at. I think it was LSU, Georgia, and Oklahoma.
As long as it's not A&M, because if it's A&M, it's going to come. It's going to come down to money.
Oh Lord, yep.
Yeah, you're right. It's LSU.
It's so funny.
LSU, Oklahoma, Georgia. Yeah,
nailed it.
Yeah, you got it.
Had to work through it in my brain, but so we are looking forward to the spring game and having some beautiful weather up in Athens. Mm-hmm. One of our buddies that we used to play wiffle ball with back since 2004. I mean, we had a long history with him. Was Danny Lanigan he's from Staten Island, New York, up there.
Yeah, we've been there.
And we've been to his house before, hung out. But so they're big Alabama fans. Him and his buddies are big Alabama fans. Apparently, I don't know how big is. This is going to lead you to believe maybe not big enough, because he's already booked a trip down here for the Alabama Georgia game, right?
They're coming for the game, man. They've got their he showed me the place they were staying, was already asking me about the Athens nightlife. Here's how you know someone's never been to Athens. They said, "Where's the place you want to go?" I'm like, "It's called downtown." you just walk, man. It's easy to find.
Yeah, and here's the other caveat that we had to have a laugh about it. Me and Smooch did. Is he doesn't have tickets to the Alabama Georgia game.
That's going to get expensive. Yeah,
and I think that people from the Northeast where college football maybe not quite as big in some of these areas, and maybe I'm wrong, Danny. If I am, you can correct me. But if you don't have tickets right now, it's going to get very expensive. That's going to be a night game in Athens, and everybody's going to be looking at that game, Alabama, Georgia. Two of the juggernauts in college football play in that game.
Well, Alabama should be undefeated when that game happens at 3-0. Georgia has Tennessee on September 13th, 2 weeks before. If Georgia gets past Tennessee and Knoxville, you got unbeaten SEC, UGA, Alabama in Athens. Game day will be there under the lights. Come on. I mean, come on.
My point is that, Danny, boy, you better get some tickets before you start spending a lot of money, because it's not going to be easy to come.
Ooh, you might have an easier time getting on the field.
So funny. In closing, Smooch, we need to bring back our DFA soon. I don't have anything tonight. Delusional fan alert, and I think Florida is going to be on it a lot this year.
Yeah, Bulldog Report. Eric's been sending me some really good DFA stuff, so it's stockpiling up. We should be ready to go. Yeah,
very, very cocky. They're already feeling it because they haven't done anything in years and years. It's been years. It's been half a decade.
They have a glimmer of hope, and there's the one thing that sucks in this world. It is Florida having any hope.
And they are convinced if he didn't get hurt, they beat Georgia last year. They're convinced. He only completed one pass of any significance in that game.
Right.
And they were losing when he was in there. So I don't know, but I would like them to have some hope, because that's much sweeter. I don't want to feel like playing Florida is just like playing Vanderbilt, or not Vanderbilt last year, but Mississippi State. I want Florida to be a team that get up for and can come in and talk trash, and you have to, it's got some back and forth where we've been able to just shut them down the last few years. They can't say two words, and we just like, oh, okay.
They've really taken the fun out of it by not being any good. So we're pulling for you, Florida.
They've heard our strength of schedule so bad. Them in Tennessee over the past few years. Everybody say Georgia doesn't play anybody, and it's a Tennessee fan saying it. Come on,
you're one of the reasons.
Yeah, do better.
Yeah.
So we're looking forward to that, and putting, Alabama.
Maybe we do an entire DFA episode, Troup, just the whole episode of DFA.
That's right. We just start bookmarking some stuff right now.
Yeah, the material is abundant.
Yeah, that'll be fun. But glad to get back on the air and have a chat with you folks. We're so thankful for you for tuning in. And please go to YouTube. If you're listening to this on our podcast, our audio version, go to YouTube. Everybody's there. All the guys are there.
All the boys are there. Yeah.
And
there's some girls too. Sorry, to Icy Pants, and I can't remember any of the rest of them.
Come on in there. Get in the comments. Let's talk football. It's getting that time of year. It's talking season, but it feels like playing season is Georgia's first game just right around the corner in the spring.
Yeah,
we can't wait. We'd be remiss if I didn't say Georgia's baseball team is 29-2, has swept Auburn and Florida.
Yes, sir.
Last couple of weeks. So there's that. Enjoy that. And Georgia's offense one of the best in college baseball.
It's so much fun to watch. It's high scoring baseball is two words that don't go together a lot.
Well,
but
you
it is.
don't always see guys when you need a couple of runs down coming up. Okay, 3-run homer, bam, grand slam. Let's just start hitting home runs, and we'll switch everything around real. I don't care who you bring in; they're going to get pounded when you.
It doesn't matter when it is in the game. Oh, we hadn't scored for 3 innings. That's fine. We'll score 6 with 2 outs. Yeah,
we'll go ahead. Got you. All right, folks. Thanks you for everything, and we'll be back next week to talk a little bit more pregame to the spring game for Smooch Moncrief. This is Troup Brenton saying so long. We'll see you soon.
Who died and made you queen of football?
This is the Dog Show with Troup and Smooch.
It's the Dog Show.